What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, back once again with another Ultraman Trigger review, as we're about to go ahead and get into episode number 16 this week. Sneering Destruction was, in fact, the title. Now, listen, I know we actually have episode number 17 about to drop today in about an hour, to be honest with you, over on the Subaraya Productions YouTube channel that you guys can certainly go ahead and check out, as we do have ourselves a brand new episode. But for those of you who have been following my community tab over here on our APlus Morphinominal YouTube page, I've been doing my best to keep you guys updated in regards to my channel. You guys will know this past week, me and the girlfriend Cindy just had our first child. That's right, we welcomed our son Noah Daniel Perez into this world on Sunday afternoon. We went into the hospital last Wednesday for a routine checkup, routine sonogram, some lab work, and they wind up rushing us to the hospital due to the girlfriend's high blood pressure. They were really concerned and worried about it. It was like 167 over something crazy. And so they admitted us to the hospital. We thought we were just going to go there to help bring down her blood pressure, and before you know it, they got us in the hospital and have her hooked up on IV, on some medications and stuff. And then before we know it, Sunday, our child is here. Significantly early. He was only like 33 and a half weeks when they did a C-section and stuff. So he's currently a preemie. He is in the NICU, or like the area in which they put the preemie babies. He's probably going to be there, unfortunately, for a while, for like maybe 4 or 5 weeks or so. But Mama just came home as of yesterday. She's recovering, doing all the motherly things that she can to certainly get ready for the baby to certainly be here. So it's been crazy. It's been pretty busy now that I am officially a father. The one thing that I mentioned on our update when I posted on this past weekend was that some of my videos were certainly going to be a little bit slow to get to you guys. And this is actually maybe my first time sitting down and recording anything, certainly all week long. Family certainly does come first. But, wherever I can kind of wiggle in some time to sit down and maybe play some catch up to the channel, I'm definitely going to go ahead and do it with the woman's blessing, of course. But no, we're going to go ahead and see our son later on this evening, probably a late visit to the NICU to go ahead and certainly check up on him. But in the meantime, we've definitely got ourselves an episode of Ultraman Trigger. So thank you very much, guys, for all your patience and understanding that my family does, in fact, certainly come first. But I definitely will be doing my best to make sure that we keep everything up to date as we go forward. So have a couple of weeks before the actual baby comes home with us. So for right now, I'm getting some sleep at the moment. So this is definitely where I'm going to use my opportunity to try and pump out as many videos as I certainly can, while at the same time making sure I'm attending to my family first. So let's get into Ultraman Trigger episode number 16, guys. And again, if anything, I certainly will try and get episode 17 up for you guys early this weekend, maybe Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening sometimes, or maybe sometime early Monday morning. So definitely look forward to episode 17 hopefully being around its normal release schedule. But this was an interesting episode, to say the least, when it comes to episode 16, Sneering Destruction. A lot of destruction goes down in this episode. While for me, I didn't really get a huge focus on a lot of our main characters, like Kengo, along with like Yuna and things like that, or Keto. We definitely do get ourselves some spotlight on Ignis along with Hoodrum this week. And again, a lot of destruction that we definitely have to go ahead and talk about. So in the previous episode, we did see, in fact, Ignis activating his Dark Trigger, or his Trigger Dark abilities with the spark lens that he wind up managing to put together. I wasn't quite sure if they were going to have him transform so early, but they definitely did. And we kick off this episode with an all-out brawl between Trigger and Trigger Dark. Kengo versus Ignis in here. As you can clearly see immediately that this power is just overwhelming for Ignis. Just really hard for him to fully grasp and handle all that power and darkness all at once. And sadly finds himself sort of blindly attacking Ultraman as Ultraman winds up trying to certainly protect the city. I wasn't quite sure if this was Ignis just testing out his abilities, trying to figure out why is he trying to take out Ultraman Trigger of all people, considering the fact that he does get along relatively well with Kengo, and he knows that Kengo is Ultraman Trigger. So the idea of him activating this ability and seeing him fight against Trigger, for me, I was wondering to myself, is this Ignis's actions, or is this really sort of the darkness kind of taking over and really just wanting to get even with Ultraman Trigger for everything that's happened in this season so far, and Ignis is really struggling with trying to harness all of it, to certainly say the least. I mean, Homeboy even manages to use some lightning powers. He's got also an impact ability that he could certainly use in here, because clearly Ignis not only stole the Spark Lens from the Gut Select lab, but he also picked up some extra keys to go ahead and hold on to some additional powers also. So I kind of dig the upgrade. Not that Kengo was any slouch as Ultraman Trigger, but now that Ignis has these additional abilities and things like that, I think once he actually grasps how to use this, the powers and things like that, he's probably going to be a very formidable foe to definitely reckon with, especially with the power-ups and the abilities that he certainly now has. We do see that eventually the Dark winds up retreating as the connection becomes maybe too much for Ignis, before he winds up returning to face off against the true enemy, or his true enemy, and Hoodrum. And I'm glad that we got to this point in this episode, because we've seen all season long that Ignis definitely has a bone to pick with Hoodrum. Hoodrum was the last person to be on, what is it, Lucerian? I can't remember the name of the planet, but I know that they are Lucians. So I can't remember the name of the planet, but he clearly wind up destroying Ignis's home planet, thus him being sort of the last person from that particular world. And so the fact that Ignis actually gets the opportunity to confront Hoodrum clearly has a bone to pick with him. I love that we wind up sort of getting that battle in this episode also. Again, this episode was all action the whole entire time, just destruction, whether it was Ignis as Trigger Dark facing off against Trigger, or Hoodrum, or our what do you call it, legendary beast that we have towards the end. Destruction and mayhem in this episode, and I was definitely here for it. But I really enjoyed just the Hoodrum and Ignis stuff, getting the opportunity to see Hoodrum just being so overly confident, sort of mocking, making fun of the Lucians, right? Or I should say the idea of him dismissing the Ignis, but yet sort of talking highly of the Lucians, before he immediately turns it around into more gloating about the destruction that wind up happening sort of at his hands. And I love that idea that you get Ignis here, who already feels some type of way to Hoodrum, and Hoodrum just sort of keeps like poking the bear, you know what I'm saying, poking a bear, almost feeling like he's sort of doing it purposefully in regards to sort of mocking Ignis, but to the point to where he really pushed him over the edge, and we see Ignis transforming into Trigger Dark once again in here for these two to certainly have a battle before Hoodrum winds up sort of escaping. So Hoodrum will definitely get his due justice, to certainly say the least. Like I definitely expect Ignis to eventually get his hands fully on him, but in this state that Ignis is in right now, certainly a lot to learn, and certainly a lot to handle when it comes to the abilities that he certainly has inside of him. So we'll see what winds up happening between them, but I am looking very forward to it. What we do see Hoodrum doing before he escapes, though, is in the battle between Trigger and Trigger Dark, it winds up sort of bringing out this seed, I guess, maybe this monster egg that's kind of been hidden on Earth that Hoodrum clearly remembers. It seems as though maybe Hoodrum, having maybe woken up earlier than all the other giants of darkness, took this time to maybe go to several different galaxies or universes and planets and sort of plant these seeds, if you will, for this particular legendary infernal beasts that he winds up dropping on here, because he says, I wonder if this is one of mine, sort of thing, and he activates it, and once he actually activates it, the infernal beast rises by the name of Metsu Orga. It starts off as Metsu Orga, and I gotta say, man, I love the design of this creature. I absolutely do. The fact that it doesn't have any arms, it's just legs, it's just out to eat. And I also love the cool sort of cackling laugh that they wind up giving it. Just creepy as can be. It's just something really odd and terrifying about a beast that's mindless, that just laughs as all it's going to do is sort of devour your entire planet. Like seeing Marluru sort of freak out about what this particular creature was, talking highly about it in the sense that, you know, this monster just eats anywhere that it goes. Like, it's destroyed planets, it's destroyed comets. You just plant it there and there's practically nothing that can stop it, and all it does is just eat everything in its vicinity. So our gut select team and Trigger do find themselves in a really incredible situation here, where they pretty much have to go ahead and take care of this mindless beast. So I love the situation that Hoodrum puts them in, and I thought the action in here looked fantastic, to be honest with you. First, we get to see the Metsu Orga take on Dark Trigger, even using maybe like some gravity powers to like drill them down into like the Earth's core almost, or at least, you know, push them further down underground. It felt very much like it was adding a ton of weight to a particular being, and then like all their weight just kind of pushed them down into Earth. I thought it was a pretty cool design, until we eventually see Trigger wind up sort of coming back. The fact that not only does it eat like objects itself, but we see it eating Ultraman Trigger's beam also, coming to find out that eventually this thing can absorb energy, and they use a ton of energy when it comes to this beast. But unfortunately for them, that energy is absorbed and actually has like an evolutionary purpose for this creature. So even though they use the absolute particles from the battle mode of the Nursedessei, which I absolutely love the design, seeing it play in this episode was great, but then expelling all of that energy into the beast itself, only to then evolve to sort of its next form in the Metsu Orochi, the Metsu Orochi. Now we've got ourselves a new legendary Infernal Beast that winds up emerging, to the point to where Marluru was like, look, I don't know what's going on anymore, guys. Like, this is not in my data banks. I have no idea what's happening right now. But clearly Hoodrum certainly knows. And the fact that Hoodrum says, oh, this is the one that I completely forgot about, right? Like the one that I probably left dormant for a particular reason, because now that it's awake, you guys have really just kind of sealed your destruction. Like, it almost felt like Hoodrum either didn't know that it transformed and evolved, or he kind of just forgot. But now that he saw it for himself, he even realizes the stakes that are certainly at hand. And if anything, you know, you guys know I talk really highly about the gut select team. If you want to talk about just showcasing what dread and fear really looks like when you're facing it head on, just look at the gut select team towards the end of this episode, when the Metsu Orochi winds up actually emerging and then completely taking out Trigger, along with Trigger Dark as well. A lot of things certainly seem hopeless at this particular point in time. I even put in my my notes, holy shit, because of just I have no idea how they're going to go ahead and get themselves out of this predicament. I will say this though, the captain does mention something along the lines of utilizing the Gargorgon key, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think early on in this season we had a creature by the name of Gargorgon that had the ability to, I think it's petrify, like seal you in stone if it looks at you or hits you with its beam or something like that. I think we saw Yuzari back in the day utilizing her abilities to propel that beam back to the Gargorgon to go ahead and like put him into stone and turn him into stone. So I'm wondering if that's what he's certainly referring to. It makes me think that maybe the captain is thinking about maybe utilizing that same power in a sense of maybe petrifying this gigantic beast. Like, if you can't destroy it, you got to stop it in its tracks in some way, and maybe turning it to stone is certainly the way to definitely go ahead and do that. Quick honorable mentions. I did love the uncoordinated high five by Marluru at the very end when they're celebrating, because they took down the legendary beast, and so they're getting ready to high five, or like high low, and they keep getting their hands mixed up, sort of thing. I love seeing the uncoordination of high fives. It makes me laugh all the time. And then last but not least, guys, Carmera still thinking about Kango, man. She's in her deep state, a deep sleep, maybe re-energizing herself, maybe putting herself in a more powerful level or mode, who certainly knows. But Chimera is currently in a slumber, and the only person she's thinking about is Kango. And I love that they continue to emphasize that over the past couple of episodes, because it definitely feels, one, that Chimera is now officially taking this very personally, and it feels very much like, despite even having something as dangerous as an Infernal Beast and even its evolutionary form, right? It feels very much like Chimera and the Giants of Darkness, regardless of the creatures that we've seen so far, they probably will end up being the true villains to go ahead and sort of wrap up this season. And it feels like we're leading up to that Chimera versus Ultraman Trigger moment for a possible season finale. So whatever we get, though, I'm continuing to really enjoy this season and continue to be really, really impressed. As much as I probably would have loved maybe more focus on Kango, Wakito, and Yuna in here, they've done a great job so far in regards to the storyline. I don't mind episodes where you take the focus off of them a little bit and give characters like Ignis and Hudrum some shine, because they have been some pretty important supporting characters in here. Now with Ignis having that Trigger Dark abilities, it should be rather fascinating to see how they explain this story, certainly going forward. But guys, listen, I want to know your guys' thoughts. What did you guys think about this episode? It was kind of lackluster when it comes to storyline oomph, but it definitely gave us some great action and some great supporting character work in here too. So definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts. At the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours, so let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. But other than that, that's going to go ahead and do it for us here. So if anything, we'll certainly see you next time. But until then, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.